So sometimes we just need someone to help us to hear and to know where our next is. Because God is talking to us. He's speaking to us.
To the Spirit in Mind broadcast with your hosts, Bishop C. Guy Robinson and Dr. Jonathan Shepard, where we explore faith and mental health perspectives on current affairs. Let's get into today's discussion with the Spirit in Mind.
Welcome to Spirit in Mind, where we discuss current affairs with faith and mental health perspectives. I'm Bishop Guy Robinson, and it is a blessing to be with you today on Spirit in Mind, and always a blessing as well to have our co-laborer, our colleague and co-host, Dr. Jonathan Shepard. Hello, Dr. Shepard.
Hey, and hello, everyone. Hello, Bishop. Good afternoon to each of you, and thank you all for listening and joining us. Let's reach out to Bishop Robinson, Bishop C. Guy Robinson. He is a pastor. He is a teacher. He's a professor. He is one who is sought after in regards to his knowledge in the Word and in his mental health work. We are so appreciative that he is the pastor of the Tabernacle of the Lord Church, 2100 West Baltimore, and you can join him on Sundays and or throughout the week for spiritual development and enrichment. You could also see him at Morgan State University. I guess you got to register for those classes, but you want to make sure that you do that properly. But he is a professor, he is a writer, critical collaborations, and he is a student, not just a student of the Word, but a student of the science. And so reach out to him, CGR Ministries. You can find him there on IG or Facebook or even YouTube. You can reach out to me, Jonathan Shepard. You can go to drjonathanshepard.com. That's my website. If you're in need of direct care services within the Maryland or District of Columbia, I'm so proud to be a part of both of those areas where we can make sure that if you are in need of direct care services, please reach out. That's probably the easiest way right now, drjonathanshepard.com. But I am on social media outlets. You can go back and listen to the various shows that we have done in this particular quarter. We have focused in on transitions, and so it's always important to go back, listen to the series, go back and replay those series of shows and sessions, because as you do that, it's amazing what jewels and gems that you are able to pull out as you listen to each session. Something that we said today, you may go back and listen to, and it may hit you differently. And so I want to encourage you all to go there, subscribe to those pages. We do have a Spirit in Mind YouTube channel, or you can go to our individual YouTube channels, Bishop C. Guy Robinson or Jonathan Shepard, and you'll find all of those materials there.
Our subject for today, it really is an ongoing discussion. We've been talking about this for several weeks because it's so critical to our human experience. Hymn writer said, time is filled with swift transitions. And we can add to that, time is filled with transitions. Some of them are gradual, some of them are expected, some of them are to be expected, and some of them are sudden. And as the hymn writer said, swift. That disrupt our assumptive world and our assumptions about normalcy. So time is filled with swift transition, and how we cope with those transitions. The Bible says we shall all be changed. And so change is a part of life. It is the constant, Heraclitus, the Greek philosopher, said. And so in this life. And so we're all going through changes in some way or another, progressively, unexpectedly, suddenly, and or gradually and developmentally. We're going through various changes. How we deal with those changes is the main thing we want to talk about. How we accept them, how we cope with them, what strategies we employ, how effective are they, how you're dealing with the changes life is taking you through. So we're talking about embracing and facing the realities of transition. And Dr. Shepard is going to give us some more foundation, and we'll continue in our conversation.
All right. So as we move forward here, we're literally going to start where we left off. And the last time we were here on live, we talked about fitness, and we talked about how as you're going through transition, that the survival of the fittest, if you would, are able to move forward and move throughout those periods of transition. Now, I know someone may say, well, Shepherd, are you sure? Am I the fittest? Or, but I will say this to you. You survived. You're surviving the transition. And the thing that I want to deal with today is reviewing over fitness, but also want to tackle the fear that happens when you are going through the transition and what that process looks like, because transitions involve movement. It involves a change, if you would, a change of address. And we've talked about changing your company. We've talked about changing your defaults. But now we need to talk about the change that happens in your address, the change that happens as you move forward and as you are now in a new place, in a new season, if you would. And the definition of fitness is the capacity of an organism to survive and to transmit its genotype to reproductive offspring as compared to the competing organisms. Now, that's the Merriam-Webster dictionary definition. But what that is saying there is that if you are fit, you have the capacity to survive. And that's really important to understand, that as you're going through transition, you have the capacity to survive. If you have survived through the COVID-19 pandemic, you had the capacity to survive. Even if you may have gotten sick, even if you had to be hospitalized, you still had that capacity to overcome the illness that struck your body. And so as we move through this, Bishop, I'm really just struck because, as you know, on this show, I like to be transparent as much as possible and vulnerable, because for myself, in the new role that I took on as the chief clinical officer in the District of Columbia, it required for me to transition not only from Maryland to the District of Columbia, but also change in residence. And if anybody out there is like me, I don't like to move. That's like one of the biggest things that I do not like to do. I don't like to move. I don't like to pack to move. When it comes time to unpack, it's like, man, can someone do this for me? Because it's just one of the things I do not like to do. And I was just thinking about that today, and really all this week, as I'm finally confirming where I'm going to have another location in D.C., and just the whole process of moving, that transition of having to pick up and transfer things to the new location. And for some people, you're like me. You don't want to do that. You're comfortable. I'll say this. You're comfortable in where your stuff is, but you're excited about the new position that you're in. And it's almost positions that are juxtaposed to one another. You're excited about the new season, but you want to get up and do the work that's required for the new season. And I really want to talk about that today because in that change of address, there's some fear that goes along with that. I hear you. I'm just thinking about the cost of living. The cost of living, that's fearful, having to maintain 2 locations, 2 residents. So I hear you out there. As you're moving forward now, 2024 is coming up. And some of you are thinking about, I'm excited about it, but I'm thinking about the new charge, the new expenses that go along with the transition. So I know Bishop, I'm sure, is going to have some words to help in digesting that fear or helping us to be more comfortable, if you would, so that as we're moving and understanding that, yes, there's going to be a change in our company, a change in our defaults, but I would submit to you the biggest fear for me is the change in address, knowing that I'm going to be in an unfamiliar place. Mm-hmm. And I'm going to leave it alone at that.
Oh, Dr. Shepherd, thank you for your transparency, and that's so true. And I can certainly relate it different. And I believe our listeners and viewers can relate as well, that, again, life sends us, and even though the biggest thing is moving physically, oftentimes the physical is a manifestation or representation of some spiritual and psycho-spiritual things that we're dealing with. So maybe you're not moving geographically, but you're moving ideologically. You're growing, you're becoming, and growth and change, growth and development. Development is the opposite of envelop. To envelop means, it's been wrapped up. To develop means that everything, if you will, that's been enveloped, what's in the envelope, is coming out.
It's coming out.
So there's some things that are packaged, and they are emerging qualities that are scheduled. We talked previously, Dr. Shepherd, I'm reminded of previous times when we talked about puberty and other things. All these things are already genetically coded into us, but there's a set time for them to emerge and to evolve or develop.
Yes.
So as we are developing, development changes the landscape. Think about real estate and land development. Development brings out what's already in the land. There's no new land being created, but what's in the land is being developed. Resources and things are being added to it, and it's being excavated, and the landscape is being looked at and things. But this potential is happening, so that what is happening is that it's essentially in the same place, same location, but it's new construction. So some of you may not be moving, and some of us may not be moving geographically or physically, but things are developing. Our relationships are developing. Our comprehension of life is developing. Our understanding is developing. Our education is increasing, and learning how to accept that that's going to happen, and how to embrace that, and that growth and loss are inextricably connected.
Wow.
Jesus said, "Except a seed go into the ground and die, it cannot bring forth much fruit," which is, his very wise way of saying that loss and growth are inextricably connected. To become, I must also leave something, and that's scary to our humanity, because we're emotional beings, and that's where our faith has to kick in. Faith in God, and faith in what God has put in us, and faith in God's plan, and even the degree faith in ourselves as being fearfully and wonderfully made, that God is going to help us to further develop in a new place. That's easier said than done, so I'm done with that, because I got to practice that myself, lest having preached to others.
Yes, sir.
I become a castaway. But, we're all agents of change, going through changes at our best.
Absolutely. And it's interesting. So even the sweatshirt that I decided to wear today, it says, "I am a new Black history maker." And, it's nice to wear the sweatshirt, but when you really think about what that does, that involves allowing that work that was already put inside of you to come out. I love how you said that, Bishop.
Yeah.
That development, being able to pull out of you. And here's one thing, because I was Phil Bishop wanted to say something right here. It is. I was talking with someone yesterday, and I do remember our conversation about how premature exposure is abuse. Mm-hmm. That when you are developing, there is a timetable. There's a set timetable associated with that. And as I was mentioning that, what's happening in our society today, as you look at our young people, a youth, that we're seeing them develop at much faster rates than we did in previous decades. That's just a matter of fact. And of course, there's different reasons and factors as to why that is. But one of the things that, even though they may be developing faster, the brain has not changed in how it develops and the rate at which it develops. So the human brain still is not mature, or matures, I should say, until the age of 26. That still has not changed. That still is the average age in which the human brain fully matures, which is why the car insurance folks, companies. That's why your car insurance rates are higher below the age of 25. It's not random. They're not just trying to milk you. They literally have science behind that. But I was just talking with someone who is still in their 20s and was giving a heap of responsibility, if you would, Bishop. And I was just thinking, as I was listening to the person, I was like, wow, they still have not gotten to the point to where they understand their self-worth. Mm-hmm. And then it hit me. I said, look at their age, Shepherd. They're still in their mid-20s. I said, wow. And again, I didn't say it to them, but even as they were talking, I said, there's some expectations that I have of this person because of the position that they were given. They transitioned from one job to another job that was more upfront, but that did not mean that they were ready or had maturated to that point to where they could handle that new transition. What am I saying? I'm saying that what Bishop mentioned is so important. And I understand why there is some fear there, because some of us are in the period of maturation, absolutely. And there's some things that are being sprung on us before we know that we're ready, or even our bodies are even telling us that we're ready. And so what we understand is that even in those times, this is where you got to seek out a show like this. This is where you got to seek out mentors. This is where you have to seek out advice so we can help you to move through these transitions. Because the thing that scares me is that I've seen people die in the midst of transitions. And not just die physically, but die emotionally, die within themselves to where they just have no more get up and go. They just don't want to do anything anymore. So they're here, but their minds are no longer here. They just checked out. And that's what happened to a lot of people, especially after COVID-19. That's why people won't go back into churches right now. That's one of the reasons why I believe that, is because they have checked out. They're here physically in body, but they are still fearful of what the responsibility that they know that they have to do. People are afraid of their purpose. They're afraid of the calling. They're afraid of the responsibility that goes along with the calling, which is what I was referring to earlier, if I just kind of keep it broad. Because with the movement, as I get my primary residence in D.C., that's an additional cost. And I can't just cut the costs in Maryland. I have to maintain that. And so I'm like, God, you have got to give me the resources to be able to handle all that is happening at this time and be able to handle it in the time frame in which you want me to handle it. So I'm kind of merging two points together, if you would. That development piece is so important. I encourage you, I'm going to turn off the Bishop, develop that land, develop that mindset, cultivate, read, listen to shows such as Spirit in Mind, listen to your pastor, listen to your spiritual leaders, because as you are moving, as you're transitioning into this new year, we want to make sure that if it requires a change of address, even if it's not a physical address, it's a new emotional street. You're now on Stability Boulevard. My God. I want to move some more people over there. I won't stop, Bishop, before I get in trouble.
But that's why we're here today. We're talking about how to maintain that stability while we're going through these transitions. Things are changing, we're changing, but there ought to be, certain fixed things in core, and even as we are becoming. And let's, we can talk about it, but Dr. Shepherd said something key that takes critical relationships, and people who can help us sometimes hear our own voice. Sometimes we need people to help us hear our own voice, it's speaking internally, but sometimes we need someone, be it a pastoral care provider or a psychotherapeutic services provider. We need someone to help us, if you will, put a mic to that internal voice so that we can hear that what's in us is trying to be developed, and how to do that and when's the time to do that. The scriptural parts of that is that the vision is for an appointed time. Means, God sometimes shows us what is his intention for us, but then there's time and development and things. I'm reminded of, there's a bunch of examples, but he shows Joseph, his position as a leader, but he doesn't show him the years in between. He shows him the moments of where he's ending up, in his dream, but he doesn't show him all of the processes that are necessary from the pit to the prison, Potiphar's house. They are all developmental points. And so sometimes for you and I, we need someone to talk us through those developmental points. Sometimes just because you're in a pit situation right now doesn't mean that the palace has been denied. There's a way out of that pit. In each one of those situations, it said, but the Lord was with him. And so sometimes we just need people to help us recognize that. I'm reminded of Samuel is another example, who had Eli mentoring him, and he knew that God was talking to him, but he kept getting up and going and saying, did you call me? And Eli said, no, I didn't call you. Call me. No, I didn't call you. Then finally he said, listen, okay, God is developing something in you. The next time you have a moment like this, handle it this way.
Wow.
Lord, your servant is listening. Speak. So what he did was give him a different strategy for how to hear the voice of vocation and purpose and destiny. He required a different strategy. It didn't change the voice. It changed his listening capacities.
Wow.
So sometimes we just need someone to help us to hear and to know where our next is, because God is talking to us. He's speaking to us, and we have an internal voice. And sometimes we just need some help to hear that so that we can develop our faith, because it takes faith to follow that voice.
Wow. Excellent. And so with that, as Bishop just said, developing our capacity, again, that is a part of fitness. And so look at this time of transition. I know as we begin to wind down here, look at this time of transition as developing your fitness, developing your emotional fitness, your spiritual fitness, your physical fitness. And one of the things that I would love for Bishop to tackle as we move throughout the next couple of Saturdays before the end of the year is how do we handle those seasons where the transition was traumatic towards us? Because we may reach that destiny, and we will reach the destiny that we are supposed to. But I'm so interested to hear, because I've been listening to Bishop even as he's been talking and ministering outside of even this particular radio show, just on how to handle your post-traumatic growth. And for many folks, Bishop, transitions can be traumatic for them. And I've been a witness to that. And so even once you get to the destination, it's like, how do you now uncouple some of those traumatic experiences so that they do not influence your decisions once you get into that new address, once you have changed those defaults, once you have changed your company? And again, that is a process. It's a process of development. And so I'm thankful to God for that development. That's why I say to people, and I'm ending here, where you see me today, I should not be in the same place this time next year, because that means something is wrong with me. That means that I'm not growing. And I tell people that every single year. Those who are in my circle, they know I say it often. I should not be in the same place I am today as I am next year, because I'm still growing. And I hope the same for you, that you are not in the same place, that we even find you on next week, that you are doing better. There may situations maybe have changed, absolutely. But we want to make sure that this show is helping you to grow, to evolve, and that we are saying something that is inspiring you. Bishop.
That's it. That's a Selah. Just we look forward to next time and you joining us. And please tell someone about what we're doing here. If this is helping you and you believe it can help someone you know, that's our purpose. That's our goal. That's our motivation. So please let someone know. And as God gives us grace, we look forward to seeing you the next time right here on Spirit in Mind.
Don't forget to follow us on social media. We're on Facebook at Spirit in Mind, and we're also on Instagram at Spirit in Mind Live. Join us next time for a new episode of Spirit in Mind.